What's tea, bestie? Tell that man to take them kids to Chuck E. Cheese because Reasonable Doubt finale has just aired and you know we gotta gab. You know we gotta talk, girl, because what a wild ride. And not even just because I was on the show. Baby, the way that finale had my edges flip, dip, and put on the chip, we gotta talk. First and foremost, can we just give it up to the writers and the fact that everybody very much got on a Zoom call when it came to this season? The way that they exceeded my expectations. When I first saw the show, I was like, oh yeah, the writers ain't playing no games. And I kind of thought that the show was going to do what a lot of shows tend to do and put all of their strengths in their first season so they can get greenlit for another season. But baby, not this one. The black and brown magic was all over that thing and they came back stronger and harder. And even with the subject matter of this season being so heavy, I think they tackled it in a way that had a lot of compassion. It educated us as well as kept us entertained. As a woman, I'm not gonna hold y'all, there were scenes and episodes that were very hard for me to watch, but I feel that all in all, they handled the subject matter immaculately. And while we talking about immaculate, baby, let's get into that soundtrack. I can really say of all the TV shows and movies that I watch, given the type of content that I give to y'all, Reasonable Doubt is definitely top 5 for most fire soundtracks. I'm gonna have to put The Chi in that listing too, because The Chi don't miss either, but definitely Reasonable Doubt, especially this season. Like, baby, I made a whole cinema soundtrack core playlist. And yes, bestie, it is on Spotify. I'll link it at the bottom. From here on out, any shows or movies that I watch, if it's a little gem or a banger that's in the soundtrack, I'll put it in that playlist for you guys to enjoy. But enough about the soundtrack, baby. Let's get into this tea, what we came to talk about. Because not Toni suing Jax and Lewis, not the baby mama suing the husband and wife. Sister, what are we doing? What are we really doing here? Because I think we really need to talk about it. We need to dissect it. And the real tea is I'm going to have to play devil's advocate because I can see where she's going with this. I can see how she putting the pieces together. Now, while we can see that Toni is 100% moving out of her feelings and maybe even 2 tablespoons of delusion, the way that she said the hospital counselor said that this is a good way for grieving couples or whatever, but it was that long gap between or whatever. Baby, what's going on? What's tea? Lewis has been very upfront about the situation with him and Jax being back together, with Jax being front and center in the whole situation. So it's not like you've been led on in any way and then he switched up on you. And while I can sympathize with Toni, and I genuinely feel that Toni has the right to grieve in whatever way she chooses to, because it was her body, it was her baby, it was her experience. I think that Lewis was very cognizant of that. He told her, grieve how you need to grieve. If you want to have the homegoing service, that's your business. I support that. I just cannot be there. Not you can't do it, just I won't be present for that because that's not how I grieve. You made that decision on your own. And that's the way that Toni had been moving a lot in this season. When Lewis came in and decided that he wanted to be active and a part of it, every decision that Toni made on her own with little to no consideration with Lewis, and Lewis had kind of just been rolling with the punches. This was the first time that Lewis had really made a boundary clear, and she essentially just crumbled. Now, here's where I gotta play devil's advocate though. It was when Jax approached her at that school and had her little 1-2, miss, if you think I'm a step behind my friends, watch how I step behind my mans. Yeah, sister, that could have been seen as threatening. That could have been seen as something that caused her immense stress. Like, even the way that she cross-examined her during the trial, they could say that she came at her with malice that induced high stress. Now, I'm not saying that she's right. I'm just saying I see how those kind of things can make a play moving forward into season 3. The other thing that I'm curious to see play out, or if it'll even matter, is the fact that Jax never told Lewis that she even stepped to Toni in any kind of way. Or at least we never saw that conversation happen. So I'm assuming because we never saw that conversation happen, it never happened. So I wonder what that's going to look like when it comes forward later on, because I just feel like it's going to come forward in the future. The speed in which Chris said that he wanted to uncouple with Sally was downright deviant. It was downright ungodly. Do you understand what I'm saying? He had wasted no time, and you could really feel that his mind was very much made up. And it's so unfortunate because in the first season, outwardly speaking, their relationship just looked like it was just a typical relationship. There was a lot of love there. They didn't have a lot of problems outside of the issues that arise in any relationship with two people. So to see that Chris is at this point, I'm not going to dismiss his feelings and say that I don't understand why, but I'm just sad to see it because I really was rooting for them and wanting them to make it through this situation. I feel like in that car, when Sally finally was honest and upfront with everything that she knew and all the things that she had been hiding, that was a level of betrayal that was too far for Chris. And it's such a delicate situation simply because on one hand, that is her husband, and her actions can 100% directly impact his life. And on top of the fact that we're just supposed to be locked in as husband and wife, we're supposed to be open and upfront with each other on everything. But let's just keep it a bean. You could be with a person forever and not know everything about them. That's just on human nature. So it's not uncommon for people to keep things from other people. It's not that she was trying to be evil or malicious, but Chanelle is her sister cousin. They are cousins, but they were raised together in the same house because Chanelle's mom and dad passed away. So in Sally's eyes, that's her sister. And putting myself in Sally's shoes, if my sister came to me and asked me to keep something in the tuck, I'm keeping it in the tuck. And that's just the bottom line. So I understand why Sally made the decision that she made. I'm curious to see what y'all think about it in the comments. Just let me know. Do you feel like Sally should have came forward and been honest with Chris? Or do you understand why Sally made the choice that she made and support her decision?
Zora Neale Hurston wrote, "If you are silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it."
Now, when it came to Corey Devontae Cash and the way that he delivered that closing argument, baby, he gonna do it every time. Do you understand what I'm saying? I genuinely enjoyed seeing Morris Chestnut as this character of Corey Cash. I think he did a phenomenal job. I think we saw a lot of growth from Corey as well in his confidence, which allowed him to show up better as an attorney. Now, I saw a little bit of discourse about the fact that Corey left the show and he's not gonna be a long-term character. But if I'm being honest, I really like the fact that they're keeping Jax in the focal point, especially as a Black woman with a career as an attorney in a space where you don't really see a lot of Black women being partnered in such a male-dominated space. And I do like the fact that it beautifully opens up an avenue to where these are possibilities. We can have these characters that come in and they're here for a season and then they're gone for another one, and they add to the story and add texture to the story, but we don't necessarily need their storyline. But also giving Jax the ability to shine in the way that we want her to shine. I genuinely feel like Olivia Pope walked so Jax could fly, and I love that. I think that these shows and this type of representation is very much needed for Black and brown people, just to see ourselves in this space, navigating our lives. Another thing that they did very well, just kind of getting off track, but talking about it for a second, is just the healing and the growth that we saw from each character, not just Jax, and just how healthy it is and the fact that it is very much possible. These are all themes that I think that we need to see. Now, Corey and this little budding relationship, I'm not mad about that. I'm very much here for it, and I do think that she is going to be the woman who really makes him an honest man, who turns him into a husband, because you can tell that this is a woman who is cultured, she's educated, she is sure of herself, and she is not going to bend it over, bust it open just because that's Corey Cash, just because he's a good-looking man. She's going to require respect, and you can tell that Corey was very much turned on and attracted to that energy, and it's gonna make him show up in a new and different way. And even tying it back to the conversation that he had with his dad earlier in the season, where his dad told him that he was the man that he became because of his mom. I think it's just that kind of echoing result of conversations like that, and him understanding that you don't want to be a player no more. You don't want to do that forever. It's time to settle down. It's time to calm down. One band, one sound. You don't need to be popping dick everywhere. It's time to just put it to rest, and that's okay. Now, there were two characters in this season that really made my left and right eyebrow itch. But one of those characters, I think I was able to kind of get past those feelings for her, and that would be Lucy. Lucy just really was somebody who was blinded by her privilege. Like, for you to have the audacity to judge this woman, to condemn this woman, to all out look down on this woman while simultaneously being this woman, literally being in the same situation, and the only thing that's keeping you from being in the position that she is in is your proximity to privilege. It was just so agitating to see. And when Jax sashayed in that office and read her for filth, read her down to the ground, I love that. And I can tell that it opened her eyes. Even in the cafe when her husband jumped on her, mind you, in public. No shame in his mayonnaise game at all. He was finna take her out right then and there. But because you knew the right people, and because you knew to be in the right place and the right time, and you had these resources literally disposable to you, that's the only thing that's keeping you from being in Chanelle's shoes. So when she was able to really see that, and the way that the episode just kind of constantly echoed this reality to her, what I appreciated the most about Lucy was she didn't reject it. She didn't try to fight against it. She didn't try to deny it. She just accepted it. And in accepting it, she was able to help another woman in her same situation have a new lease on life. I was also happy that Lucy's son didn't do what I thought he was going to do when Lucy was finally honest with him about the reality of his father. Because something made me feel like he was going to be like, "You're a liar, Mom," and just really be that kind of kid. Y'all know what I'm talking about, though. And just be that kind of kid. So I was glad that he rode with his mom. He believed his mom the first time. Now, I do kind of feel like we are going to see Lucy's character again in season 3. Simply because her and Jax started to form this kind of friendship. She does now work for the DA's office. And the story with the husband isn't solved. It's just kind of, we put a pin in it. Because at the end of the day, eventually he's going to get out again. And what we see about him is that he's extremely violent. He's extremely dangerous. He was stalking her and all of these things. So I do think that that whole situation is going to come back. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, hearing Lewis cry in that bathroom about losing his baby, it made my soul shatter in my chest. I cried probably about 4 or 5 good times during this one episode alone. It was tearing me up. Me in school toe up. You understand what I'm saying? Just toe off the bone. And when he came out the bathroom and he was laying down and he was just kind of having this revelation, like, this baby was real. I held this baby. He was mine. But also a part of Lewis was obviously relieved that this chapter was closed. Not losing the baby, but just the fact that they didn't have to walk down this road. He wasn't tied to this woman for 18 years. I could not judge him for those feelings, because if we keeping it a bando, despite how the internet and people like to just portray that they are so holier than thou, they would never think anything like that. The reality of the situation is it's a human feeling. It's a human reaction. The only difference is Lewis was vulnerable enough to say it out loud, and other people will keep it tucked in out of fear of being judged. Y'all see my notes? I did not come to play. I have notes. Lewis was very adamant on trying to keep the kids out of the whole situation with the baby as much as possible. And I do not think that that is something that's going to be possible in season 3, because I kind of felt like Lewis kind of felt like now that the baby is gone, we're going to just get through this service and that's going to be the end of that. We're not going to have to worry about it. But Toni is absolutely intertwined in everything that's going on. Her kid goes to the same school as Naima. So, you know, it's going to come out no matter what. And now that you're being sued, you should come forward and be honest with these kids. I do feel like Naima is going to be the one who struggles with that reality the most. And we're going to see her really turn up and act crazy behind finding this out. Especially because I feel like Toni going to be one of them baby mamas that get on social media and do the most and blast him and this and that and this and that. So I feel like it's just going to get very messy. And then that kind of stuff leaks into the schools. And now everybody chatting at the schools about it. The kids are getting looked at funny. And it's just going to be one of those things that kind of impacts the whole family. So we going to have to really see how tightly knit they are, how committed to each other and this family dynamic they are, because they are not out of the woods with Miss Toni. She got a whole storm brewing and I can feel that.
But that's what these last 6 months have been about. Me trying to stop.
You stop when you want to stop. Corey was right. But you know that already.
I know. But it's nice to be reminded. Especially by you.
You don't need me no more, Fairfax. But you know that too.
Now, we saw a lot of growth from Jax and Lewis, both independently and as a couple, and I appreciated their growth. Y'all know I'm in my diamond season. I'm in my season of going under pressure and coming out better, and we definitely saw that same theme for these characters. They definitely put a lot of work in. We understand that healing is not a linear journey, but despite the setbacks, they kept trying. They kept showing up for each other. Lewis told me apart when he walked in that house and he told her, "I exist to love you." What are we talking about? What are we talking about? And it was really at that moment and with the help of Dr. Henry that Jax understood, baby, there is a such thing as unconditional love. You've been getting it from this man this whole time. Through all of your stuff, through every trial and every tribulation, he's been right there by your side. You just couldn't recognize it because you had never seen love like that before. Because the dynamic at home was never like that. You didn't know that this is what it looks like. And it doesn't look like the fairy tales. It's not going to always be perfect. And on the opposite side of that for Lewis had to understand that Jax is a woman of action. So her being here with you, her showing up every day and staying committed to you and trying to communicate through the frustration, through the heartbreak, that is her showing you that she is here and she's committed. So even though it doesn't look like what you expect it to look like, you can't dismiss her feelings either. And the thing that really saved them the most, and I think the reason that we were able to see so much growth from them in this season, was their communication was like night and day. They were open to communicating to each other, to expressing when something upset the other person and not move in anger or retaliation, and listen to receive what they were saying and to be able to respond properly instead of just listening to immediately respond without any context or depth or consideration for what that person was saying. Those tools really showed us that you can really get through anything if you're putting the work in. And while we on the subject of character development, baby, we just got to give the 10s to Sister Jax. Jax was putting in the work to get better and be better and show up better, and I appreciate that. First and foremost, I'm so glad that my girl finally put the nicotine products down. Her and cigarettes just really make my eyebrows itch. So I was glad to see she finally just threw that away. She let that go. But for me, the biggest thing was her taking her medicine and just getting on a regimen, because in the beginning, she had this ideology that a lot of people have with needing to take medicine for mental health, and that the medicine is some kind of confirmation that you're just too broken, or that you're not strong enough to get through whatever it is that you're struggling with because you need medicine. So when she finally allowed herself to understand that the medicine is here to be used as a tool to help you show up better, to help you have that clarity, to help you to be able to move along in your process of being better, then it really was that night and day thing for her, on top of obviously going to therapy and just really putting the work in and being very conscious and aware of the way that things made her feel. But of all the progress that we've seen my good sis Jax make through this episode, it was the conversation between her and Damon for me. That's the part that made me come unglued, baby. Me and my edges was sobbing, because the conversation wasn't a conversation of closure between Jax and Damon. It was Jax giving herself permission to let go of all the things that she was holding on to. Damon for Jax represented all of the things that she hadn't allowed herself to let go of, all of the regret that weighed her down, all of her shame, all of her guilt. That was the manifestation of Damon and what he represented. So when he sat down and let her know that, you have the right to let go of these things, to move forward, to live a life. Instead of waiting on the sky to fall, you ask God for grace. You look for the silver lining in things. You enjoy the life that you are allotted, because it is a blessing. And she gave herself that permission to step forward into a new chapter of life. I'm starting to get emotional. I'm sorry, but it was just so beautiful to see. Like, you could see real healing. You could see Jax very much closing the chapter and choosing not to be a victim of guilt, a victim of shame, and to really shine and to really win and move forward. And it was just a beautiful thing to see. That for me was probably one of the most powerful things that I saw from Jax's character all season. Last but certainly not least, we have got to get into my beautiful cousin Chanelle Alizé. If y'all follow me on Instagram, y'all know that is my creme brulee cousin. I love her down boots. Now, when we found out that someone else unalived JT, I went back and forth between Sally and Natasha, just because to me, I could feel that Sally was moving funny, but the more and more the show progressed, I could see that Sally was moving more so as a person who was haunted by the guilt of knowing the real truth and not someone who was guilty. So that, on top of the fact that one thing that we have consistently seen and what has been really driven home about Chanelle's character is, above everything, Chanelle 100% prides herself on being a mother. So looking at it like that, it made me realize that she's protecting her kid. This is a mother protecting her child. So I kind of figured that Natasha had come home, saw what was going on, and really just tried to get JT off of her, and it went too far. And even with Chanelle making the decision to go ahead and let JT be deep fried, put him on that G5 and send him down to the hot place, I think that decision came not only for just her freeing herself, but also Natasha said something in the finale that made me feel like maybe JT was not the kindest father. Maybe he was kind of mean to them. I don't think he was going as far as he was going with Chanelle, but I could see that with JT, his whole thing was power, needing to have power and control. So it kind of made me feel like maybe that extended not just through his spouse, but even onto his kids, because Natasha said, "You saved me, now let me save you." So I think that that was another reason that Chanelle let him go ahead and fry, was because she was scared of what kind of way JT might try to retaliate against his child, because JT may be seeing it like, you siding with this woman who's not even your mom, you went against me, and her life could possibly be in danger because of that. Now, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, something in my gut made me feel like the verdict was going to upset me, because it only took about 4 days for the verdict to come back. And while I was praying that they were going to let my girl make it, she was going to be able to be a free woman with no charges against her, what we are quickly learning about Reasonable Doubt in these 2 seasons is they are not going to do the thing that is expected. Here's what we expect. Here's what Reasonable Doubt is going to do. They're going to throw us for a loop, and I think they gave us a happy medium with the sentencing. So yes, Chanelle was convicted of manslaughter, but she doesn't have to serve any time because of Lucy going forward and asking for a reduced sentence. So there is life that can begin after this. And I was definitely tore up when she came running out of those gates and her friends were there to greet her and love on her and just really celebrate that now she gets to be home. She gets to be a mother to her kids. When Adrian pulled up, though, I was in my beige emotions yet again. Because while I am proud of the fact that Chanelle chose herself, that Chanelle is in her diamond season in the sense of she now has the freedom to live life by her terms, by her means. She's not defined by being worthy because she's in a relationship. She definitely gets to blaze her own trail and fall in love with herself. And I do think that that is completely necessary after going through all the things that she endured for the amount of time that she endured it. She definitely needs a moment to just be free, to just let her edges down, let them blow in the wind, pop a little cat if she like it like that. Whatever she want to do, she has the freedom to do it. But I do think that Chanelle is going to realize that she is deserving of love and she will give love a chance. And if she does reach that point, I need it to be Adrian that she is with, because Adrian loves her down boots. Adrian sacrificed his own self so that she had an opportunity to possibly be free. And over everything, Adrian saw the possibility and saw who Chanelle is to her core. She's not at a point where she sees it yet. And what I love is that Adrian sees the potential in Chanelle, but overseeing the potential in Chanelle and being able to see the woman that she's going to become, he respected her decision and understood her need to be free and didn't fight against that. He didn't continue to try to push the issue. He just wished her well and went on with his life. So that was just truly beautiful. And that just let me know that that's a good man, Savannah. Savannah, that's a good man. So when it's time to give love a try, Chanelle needs to call Adrian, and that's going to be the guy. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying now. And last but not least, I have to commend my cousin for the way that she stared Mavis in her devious eyes and told her, baby, me and you not family, and you can leave my establishment. You can get up out of here. Get on that broom that you flew in on and go on about your business. I really don't know how she didn't get locked up for intimidating a witness, because I could have sworn that was illegal, but whatever. Now, moving into season 3, what I'm a little leery about, what I'm a little worried about is Mavis possibly trying to retaliate against Chanelle and harming her in some kind of way. I could definitely see Mavis doing something like that. It's very on brand for her. But what I want to know is what y'all thought about the finale. How y'all feeling about season 3? What are some of your predictions? What were some things in the finale that you kind of predicted? What were some things that took you by surprise? Chat it up with me and let me know. And until next time, bestie, love you. Bye.